you are looking for a summer job, there are several key factors to keep in mind to ensure that you find the right opportunity for you. In this episode, Mike discusses 5 things that you should keep in mind when looking for a summer job with Brook, Amari, and Christina. All this and more on the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Riley. We got an interesting podcast today. With me is Brook Riley and a just recovered from illness, Amari Clancy. Amari, how you feeling?
A lot better, Mike.
And for those following us, Brook is on baby watch. Is today the due date, Brook?
Today's the day.
All right, well, we got to get that pool going. Amari, I'm going to put you in charge of the baby watch pool.
Okay.
Date and hour. Everybody kick in $5. Okay. So, and we also have a guest. I'm not going to give her last name because I don't want to embarrass her on this podcast. But Christina is looking for a summer job. I'm not even going to tell the college she's in. Christina, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're not going to scare Christina away because this can get a little edgy here. Although I have to say, Christina did her homework. She was asked to listen to some podcasts, Amari, and she actually did listen to podcasts. Christina, what did you take away from some of the podcasts you heard?
I definitely thought they were edgy, yes, but I did take some notes. A lot about value. I liked the Don't Be a Fool at the Poker Table one where you talked about awareness and how to be aware.
What
How
else?
to more knowledge and be proactive about your learning through listening to the podcast and reading the Little Red Book of Selling and Rich Dad, Poor Dad were very interesting.
Well, give me the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Just give me the elevator speech. What'd you take away from that?
Basically, I took away to invest in stocks and bonds, and the higher the risk, the higher the return, and to gather a lot of information about one subject, a lot about assets and liabilities. And
Okay. What about the Little Red Book of Selling?
the Little Red Book of Selling, a lot of notes there. My favorite was Kick Your Own Ass, to celebrate effort, not every single victory, to prepare to win or lose to someone that is winning. So you're really your own competition here and try to beat yourself.
Well, I'm going to throw a couple of football analogies your way. I will disclose that Christina is about to graduate from the University of Alabama.
Yes.
Roll Tide, right, Christina?
Yes.
But one of the things we talked about in the past podcast is the near-death experience of meeting payroll. If you have your small business and if you have a property, the near-death experience of renting it out. And this is where a fool in the poker table comes into play, because the good poker player is always mindful of what the table looks like, when to hold them, when to fold them, as the legendary Kenny Rogers said. If you're got a property, you got to ask yourself, do I take the money now or do I wait for a better tenant? In the case of the meet and payroll, this is where it's like football, Brook, which is you are what your record is. If you're winning and losing, and if you're losing more than you're winning, you're not going to be around a long time. That's a variation of the near-death experience, football coaches. And a lot of times what happens in football, especially in the pro game, and college is just as ruthless, is that you're either winning the national championship or you're not. Or you're winning games or you're not. And if you're not, you're out. So I know, Amari, you just had a marketing meeting, right?
Yep.
Well, the marketing meeting is about getting bookings in the place. We're either getting bookings or we're not getting bookings, right?
Right.
So, Christina, this kind of real world that people talk about, it's all about results. Nobody cares what you did. Nobody cares what grade you got. And as you're moving out of the safe harbor of college into the real world, suddenly storms are going to come up. You're going to get buffeted by winds coming out in a direction that you had anticipate. And you've got to survive in your boat, and you've got to figure it out in real time. Just like the college head coach or the pro head coach who's promoted from an assistant coach to the head coach. It's like he is now, or she is now, in the real world. You're either winning or you're losing. So with the marketing meeting, Amari, and I want you to comment on it because you're just coming out of that marketing meeting. We're trying to get heads and beds in the Fairmont Mansion. What was your takeaway with that meeting?
Well, with that meeting, and even just to the points that you're making, on the bigger picture, is you can't delude yourself. I think and especially marketing can be so tricky because, it can be really easy to feel like you're just doing so much. You're posting on this, sending email blasts and campaigns, and, all of it can look really nice and be professional.
It feels good.
It feels really good. Everybody's high off of just talking about it, but what are the actual results? How many people are actually clicking on that email blast? And out of those people, how many, are actually turning into real jobs? What's the conversion rate, from all these emails, from all these postings, from all this stuff to actual jobs. So you can't delude yourself about the success of what you're doing just because you're doing so much and it all looks really good. What is the actual results of this stuff?
Right. I think also we're talking about summer jobs. That's what this podcast is about. That's the title. And we've got our guinea pig here, Christina, who is starting to test the waters with the summer job. She's not, going to be lifeguarding or working at a waitress. She's beginning to venture out and get a sense of what she wants to do. Now, let me go through a couple of things, key points. Let's do top 5 things to consider when you're going out and looking for a summer job. The first thing, number 1, is to be proactive about learning. And by that, I mean, nobody's giving you a syllabus telling you you'll be quizzed on this at the end of the summer. And don't underestimate when you're in college about how passive you've been learning. You're basically being told, this is what you're going to learn and you'll be quizzed on this. So it's not too far from, monkey in a zoo. You do this really well, you're going to get a banana, right? Now you're in a situation where you have to be proactive about learning on a wide array of knowledge, from YouTube to Wiki to reading books like The Little Red Book of Selling or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or 1 Minute Manager, all the great books out there, Secrets of Success books. I mean, there's only a million of them out there. But now it's up for you to go to that buffet and look at what you want to take that's going to help you advance. And it can be overwhelming. Brooke, you want to comment?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just have to have that drive. And if you don't have the drive, then, people really aren't going to go anywhere.
How about you, Amari?
Yeah, no, I agree with Brooke. You definitely have to have that drive. I mean, I think just, just speaking for myself, the more that I do just start to allow myself to just learn about different things, or like you've always preached, Mike, just read, the Wall Street Journal, read New York Times, you know, you don't have to read it cover to cover, but just, you know, open your mind to just even absorbing some of the world news, some of the, you know, financial world news, and, you know, just you start to take in bits and pieces, and it can open your mind. And I think even then that can start to create a drive. You know, you start to even learn more about what's possible, you know, outside of what was told to you by your parents or in school or whatever, you know, and then your world just starts opening up, and you start telling yourself more about what you can do versus what you can't do, you know, based off some preconceived limitations.
Right. What's your thoughts, Christina? You're our guinea pig.
Yeah, I agree with both of them to have a drive. I think setting goals is really important. Long-term and short-term goals. And I agree with him soaking up information from every aspect of life, you know, watching the news, listening to your elders and people you respect.
Good. Well, that kind of leads me to the next number two. Number two is learning from your elders. That's a great way of putting it. I wouldn't have put it that way. I would have put it more like keeping it real. But one of my favorite adages is don't take advice from people unless they tell you about all the mistakes they made. There's nothing worse than some old person going on and on and on and on and on and on about how they became so successful. Can we have some stories from the crypt, from deep inside about how they failed? What was your most memorable failures as well as your memorable successes? Let's get the whole picture here. And I think that is one of the most important lessons here, is because if you read, one of the things I always like to do is reading Wikipedia, and say you watch a movie and then you read about that person's life and whatever. It's amazing how they got from A to Z to be a movie star, to be an NBA star, to be a billionaire, to be somebody who's, you know, successful in their business or successful in their family and their marriage. How did they get there? A lot of times maybe they had a spell of sobriety where they had to go to AA, or maybe they failed in college, or they dropped out and they went back, or maybe they left after their first year. I mean, Brad Pitt, for example, he had one semester left in Columbia University in New York. He was on his way to New York to finish his last semester, and he got a call from to be in this movie. Turned around, goodbye to degree, and off he went. And he was later asked, well, why didn't you finish the degree? He said, I got what I wanted out of college. And I think for a lot of successful people, when you go into college, go in there and don't just get the degree, have an idea of what you want to get out of college. What's your thoughts, Brook?
Well, you know, speaking from someone who went to college for a little bit and, you know, decided it wasn't for me, you know, I think most of the time I don't have a lot of regret about not finishing college, because I think, you know, I learned from other experiences. But I know nowadays it's just, or at least in the past, it was hardwired, you know, that after high school, you immediately have to go to college. I think the narrative is slowly changing, where college, I would say for the majority, it's what a lot of people decide to do next, but you are starting to hear the chatter more that it's not really necessary, especially too with just how expensive it is. You know, just hearing how much like it is to go to, you know, I think one of my friends told me how much it costs to go to Boston University for 4 years, and it was some absurd number. So I think that's playing a part in it too. But I think so, yeah, that's what I think.
How about you, Amari? No college for you.
No college for me. I had a very arrogant mindset when I was in high school that, if college was more of anything close to, my high school experience, then I didn't really feel like there was much I would learn in a formal academic environment. I had a kind of enlightening experience in summer school and high school where, you could work at your own pace. Everything was online. And it was like, as you finished your work, you got to leave. So if I finished my work in an hour, I could go. But if it took me 5 hours, I had to stay 5 hours, until summer school was over for that day. And for me, I was like, this is how the world should work. Instead of me just having to sit in a place for 8 hours or something, and everyone has to be kind of forced into this environment, like I just want to work at my own pace and learn on my own. I was learning more that way anyways. So I didn't, I knew college wasn't for me, that it would just be a waste of money and just racking up debt for no reason. And
Yeah, I think people are afraid to go to a place where they have to really reflect back, because I think this goes to learning from your mistakes. For a good chunk of people who go to college, it's the best time of their lives. They meet a lot of friends, socializing, they're exposed to new experiences. And that is what college should be about. For other people, it's just a checkbox. This is what I'm supposed to do when I get out of high school. Go to a good college. And I remember Brook with one of my kids. I mean, you guys all went to private school, but I couldn't believe the last 2 years at Hawken, where it just seemed like they were more interested in what good school you were going to go to, because it looked good for them on their resume. And to me, it was like, hey, come on, let's learn something here, as opposed to just passing an SAT. So I think, Christina, one of the points about is you're in the moment here. You've got that last semester, and you have the ability to take this summer and just to go into that last semester with a lot of skepticism, questions. Don't worry about it. Go in there and it's like you're playing with house money, right? You've got, what? I know what it takes to get a job. Let me take this last semester and really take some big bites out of the apple. What's your thoughts?
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand, or should understand, the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen, and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a Gold Star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested.
I have found college to be a great tool. I have had a very good experience. I think obviously I'm learning a lot educationally, but I've also learned a lot about how to be independent and how to be responsible and how to keep your commitments and how to be on your own without, mom and dad helping you every step of the way. I've gone out and found my own jobs at school, and I've done my own thing at school. And yeah, so I found it to be a great tool. I think you can obviously get that in other ways, but
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I agree. And that's look, if you want to have somebody who went into college, getting their own side hustles, getting jobs, not having mom and dad do your laundry for you. I mean, I've seen that. So yeah, that's good. So number 3, learn from mistakes, failures. There's a great expression: success is based on a mountain of failures. Your thoughts, Brook?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of your failures in the past to be able to grow. I mean, you can't be delusional about it. And, I have a lot more respect for people who acknowledge their mistakes and their failures, and because it just shows that, they want to improve, they want to get better, but you can't do that until you face reality, how you screwed up in the past.
Yeah, I think the summer job that you jump into, that is an opportunity to ask a lot of questions. Because anybody who, like Christina, you worked at Shaker Country Club last summer, right?
great.
Great opportunity to talk to a guy like Ben, talk to Stevie, the bartender, talk to other people, the greenskeeper. Great opportunity to interview people from all cross sections of life, all educational backgrounds. And again, Tamari, to your point about learning, reading the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, going online, reading Wikipedia. These are all, every day you say to yourself, what did I learn today? What did I learn? It's like working out for your brain. What did I learn today? Because that's a puzzle piece. The puzzle piece is just added out, and you may come up with 1 million different pieces of the puzzle. And all of a sudden you start seeing stuff you never saw before, because all those little knowledge bits, what you learned that day, is going into that life puzzle, and it gives you better context. But the ability to go into your summer job and work for like a small business or look for a company and just have your legal pad and your notebook and just take, hey, can I ask you a couple of questions? How did you start this business? Where did you, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? All those different questions is a great way of making money in the summer, but also getting a better sense of what, life's about. So that's am I at number 3, Amari? Everybody keeping track?
You're at 3, yep.
All right, number 4. So what summer job should you get, and connecting that to a mentor? Amari, you want to jump in on that one?
Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to the whole, needing to set your goals and understanding what the big picture is, and then you kind of work backwards from there, So, like, you don't say, okay, I want to get into real estate and then go work, at a video game store or something like that. Like, everything has to be connected to your bigger goal. And, it's good to start with the network of people you have access to, and, talk with those people to see if they know of anything that they can connect you in with, because knowing someone is always better than just, cold calls. But, your summer job should be, connected with some aspect of learning about the field you want to get in. That's kind of my general spiel.
Well, I'm going to answer my own question, which is the summer job that you get to, especially if you're getting to your last year of college, like where you are, Christina. This summer job should have a major sales component where you're actually learning sales on the ground. And what I mean by sales, that's where you're taking that little red book of selling, you're applying it not just to selling, but also marketing. Sales is marketing, marketing is sales, because You're trying to sell a product, might be a lousy product. You're getting feedback. You're making adjustments. So your summer job should have a component of sales. What's your thoughts, Christina?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You were telling me earlier that everyone should take a sales class, which I have not done, but I think that you can get sales information from other tools like the Little Red Book of Selling, and you can find resources online, and kind of circling back to just letting yourself absorb information constantly.
Well, definitely your dad's a salesman. I mean, really, I would whip out a legal pad and just interview him. Tell me about your best sales. Tell me about when you hit a wall. Tell me about how you changed, how you adapted. What's your thoughts, Brook, on sales?
Yeah, I think the best way to learn how to sell is to actually go out, and do the selling, like in person to a customer. I've had plenty of really good experiences. I've had a handful of really awkward experiences where there's nothing more educational than
Getting that big fat no, get lost, you're too high. What are you trying to rip me off? So you were saying you've had some good and bad.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think the best way to learn how to sell is, just through the actual experience. So I've had plenty of really good positive experiences. I've had plenty of really bad experiences and awkward experiences. And I think when I first started out, and I'm still, I think I got over the hump last year, but I was always really intimidated to give the price in person. And I would just kind of build up this anxiety to send an email. And I learned that as long as I'm being honest, I'm trusting my numbers. I prefer to give them like a ballpark number face to face because I want to see what their reaction is going to be. I need to be genuine. I need to be, and once, let's assume it all goes well, there's a little pushback, they say, hey, that sounds expensive, or hey, it's like you just have to stay true to your price and who you are as a company. And then it's like once you get the job, now you have to deliver the work. And that's where it gets escalated more into managing and working with your company and making sure that, hey, look, they chose us because they trust our work. The salesman did a good job of convincing them to go with us. So the price and the work should reflect each other. And if something, you're going to hear about it right away.
I remember one thing to keep in mind, Christina, there is a lot of dumb out in the world. People that you think are smart, not very smart. I remember reading David Halberstam's book, The Reckoning, which came out in the mid-'80s. And it was about the Japanese car business and how they were doing battle with General Motors. They were coming in with Toyota cars, Honda cars. I mean, just running rings around the American auto market. This is way before you guys were born. But Japanese became synonymous with quality. And then, of course, you have the German cars, Audi, Mercedes. I mean, meanwhile, the American car, the Fords, the General Motors, the Chevys, breaking down, rust buckets. And one of the stories that I'll never forget was GM had a policy of every year their executives would get new cars. Now think about it. Every year they're getting a new car, which means year 2 and 3, if they have the same car, it starts breaking down, they'd never know it because they always had a new car. But meanwhile, Hertz and Avis rent-a-cars were reporting that the fleet of cars that they were buying were breaking down after X number of miles. Meanwhile, the Japanese cars weren't. So, Brooke, to your point, about you're selling a job and then you got to make sure you're delivering it is part of that holistic approach to the company you're working for. I mean, Christina, you were waitressing at Shaker. I mean, how many times did you bring out a plate of food where it wasn't cooked right? Have you had that experience?
Yeah, definitely had that experience a few times, or it wasn't what the customer expected.
Member expected. Now you got to deal with getting blowback. Now, what you want is you want somebody to make good on that. So, because you're on the front lines dealing with the customer.
Right.
So, I mean, sales it's an all-encompassing word. It's making sure the product's done right and you're delivering and you're not isolated, and I'm sure if you talk to your dad, he's out there delivering, software product or whatever. Boy, I'll tell you, he better, if there's something going wrong in the field, he better know that he can go back and they're going to fix it for him. Like you're going back into the kitchen and the guy's going to, the chef is going to fix it for you. So that's why sales is I evangelize on it, is such an important component, which is undertaught in the real world because there's something dirty about it. I don't want to be a salesman. I want to be this. And that was covered in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Which leads me to the last and final thing, another undertaught subject in school. And what do you think that is, Brook?
Managing money.
Boom. Drop the mic. What do you think, Amari?
I mean, managing in general.
Managing money. Managing money. Been on when you're a young guy, I know you're working out now, you quit smoking, but have you been managing money? You owe credit card. We're not going to get into that, but you've heard me hammer on you, right? For years about that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're not going there. Brook had to deal with the money chart growing up. But this is where, if you're a professional, if you're a grown-up, you're financially self-sufficient. Now, shit could happen. You get hit by a car, you got an illness, and that's what your family's there to support you. But if you're 25 years old and your parents are still paying for your cell phone, you're a teenager, mentally, emotionally. You got to be able to say to yourself, I'm going out and I'm going to have a career. You don't have to make, 6 figures. You can make half of that. I know guys, people at the club I play, that Christina worked at, they make 300,000 and they spend 350,000. They're always in debt. But if you know how to manage money, you're sharp about money. You're going to Costco. You're paying your credit card off. You're using traveler miles. You're understanding of where you're spending, your money. You're making money, you're spending money, and you're saving money. So that's the 3-legged stool. So the summer job that you have, develop a mentor, ask questions, learn about selling, learn about managing your money. Everybody, Christina, you're talking about important to have goals. Okay, fine. Let's walk the talk. What's your goal? I'm going to have 1,000 in the bank at the end of the summer, or 500. Okay, let's see if you realize that. I'm going to be in shape. I'm going to run a half marathon, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to learn how to do this. Set your goals and then hold yourself to account. And that is what a full summer should be. And trust me, it'll carry over into college, because suddenly the mere act of having a goal and seeing that result means you are living a life that's proactive. Final thoughts, Amari? Let's go around the table.
Yeah, so I mean, as we've talked about before, with setting goals, being proactive, for me, you start off with the big picture, what are those big ticket items, that are your big goals for that year, for your life, whatever, and then you work backwards. What goals, what benchmarks do you want to reach every quarter, every month, to every week, to every day? And then you just, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you just stay on the path.
Christine, we're jump to you.
Yeah, my
Final
final
thoughts.
takeaways are I'm ready and eager to apply all these things that you said, and hoping to grow my portfolio this summer and apply these things at school.
Brooke, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think, I kind of go back to what I said at the start. Just make sure you have that drive and really master the basics.
Okay. We're down to 10 seconds on this podcast. I hate to cut you off. All right, everybody. We'll pick it up next week. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Riley. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.